Luis, thank you, thank you. Oh, our pianist Danielle has caught him in someplace between Maryland and here in flights and stuff with all the snow that they have back east. So Jose Luis was willing to step in. So thank you, thank you. So welcome, yes. You'll hear more from him as the morning goes on. So welcome to this service. It's January 12th, 2025. It's good to have all of you here physically in person and all of you watching us from remote. It's just good to have folks here. This is a service at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson. My name is Bert Meek. I will be your worship associate this morning. I prefer the pronouns he and him. And our lead minister, Reverend Bethany Russell Lowe, will be guiding us in worship this morning. Because, sadly, cases of COVID persist, the CDC has formally declared the virus to be endemic, not just here in the U.S., but throughout the world. It's not going away. Fortunately, for now anyway, the risk here in Pima County is low, which allows us then no longer to require people wearing masks. Should you choose to wear one, absolutely feel free to do that. If you're not feeling well, we encourage you to watch us from afar. At the start of our pandemic, our congregation was committed to being fully boosted and vaccinated for all of our sakes, especially for those who are most vulnerable amongst us. Please, let's maintain that commitment. For your information, we have 2 gender-specified bathrooms just inside the front door there. Behind the AV desk in the back of the room, we have a 3rd bathroom that's handicap wheelchair accessible and for all genders. As we worship today, let us always remain mindful of those desert people who were first here where we are sitting. Their land was stolen, the successive acts of displacement and genocide. So therefore we take a moment to honor the Hohokam, the Yavapai, the Tohono O'odham, the Yaqui, as well as honoring those tribal indigenous people who no longer exist as tribal entities. So in order to strengthen our community further, we commit ourselves every Sunday and throughout the week to upholding each of the 7 Unitarian Universalist core values. These are values that bind us into a community as we try to bring out the best in all of us. So one of the core values is interdependence. Here you go. Interdependence. We honor, we protect, and we attempt to heal that interdependent web of life of which we are all a part. We are strongest when we are together. So now, as we move more deeply into the sacred space of worship, we proclaim that our community strives to become as varied as the blooms of the Sonoran Desert, so that we may better reflect the wonderful diversity with which southern Arizona is blessed. Please be assured that we value you for what you bring to us today. However you entered our sanctuary, if you skipped, if you rolled, shuffled, you have a place here. Wherever you are in your spiritual path, that however you've chosen to follow it, your place can be here. Whatever cultural or ethnic background you claim, you have a place with us. And whomever you love, however you identify your gender, in whatever way you choose to express it, please know you always have a place with us. Thank you.
Good morning. For those of you I have not met, and there are a few I have not met today, my name is Reverend Bethany Russell Lowe, and I serve as lead minister of this congregation alongside my colleague and our Minister for Congregational Life, Reverend Jamili Omar. You'll hear more from Reverend Jamili later. And I will say I'm sorry for the cold, not out there, but in here. I don't have control out there. It's a little colder than some of us desert dwellers might like. And one of our longer-term desert dwellers had blankets in her car. So if you're a little too cold, there's been an offering of blankets. Come and grab one if you're one of the cold among us. I'm serious. We want you to be cozy. They're right there. Bert is demonstrating the beautiful blankets. Our words for a call to worship this morning come from, don't be shy. Please grab a blanket. Our words for a call to worship this morning come from Gwen Matthews. Feel that? Each breath, every inhale, exhale, we are living, breathing, connected. We are whole, complete, beautiful selves that we're born to be. Feel that in your bones, in your muscles, in your heart, in your blood. That is the extraordinary you. The you who was born for this time and this place and this moment. Feel that? The struggle, the worry, the pain, the loss, the grief. It is still you. You are whole, complete, beautiful, extraordinary. Feel that and come, let us worship together.
You were trying something new here. So for chalice lighting, please allow me to read the words. This morning, the reading is entitled, Let the Chalice Connect Us, and it's written by Catherine Callahan. So, as the chalice is lit, as it was now, let us come together into the sacred space that we have created together. Let the cares of the day fall away and know that there is a place for quiet reflection, a pause in our lives, and for breathing into our true selves. Let what is said and felt here add richness to the dimensions of our lives and our spiritual practices. We are strong together as a community, and we share the experience of being human. So let the warmth of this chalice lit right now during our time together connect us, carry us into the world as you at home light a candle or chalice to connect with us. Ryan.
Alicia Carpenter wrote the lyrics to 10 of our favorite hymns in the Gray Hymnal, and I can't find out anything about her other than she lived to 91 years old. If anyone in the room knows anything, please tell me at some point. But we'll sing Just As Long As I Have Breath, one of her songs now. If you will, rise as you are able. And we will go. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
It's time now in our service to go with a ritual of joys and sorrows. Remember that all of us carry both joy and sadness inside of us. How we feel may not be the least bit obvious to those around us, but our emotions are very real and very present in each and every one of us. And we all need a time because of that to honor those feelings. So this, our shared bowl, which we use for joys and sorrows most every week, it holds the big rocks, which signify our collective celebrations and our collective mournings. These rocks are from the earth, which makes them strong, more than strong enough to hold our pain and our joy and our love and our anger. In just a minute, each of you who wish will add your smaller stones to the bowl to represent your individual joys and individual sorrows. On a personal note, I think of the devastatingly destructive wildfires which have ravaged through the greater Los Angeles area. But I am heartened to hear examples of those, especially without legal documentation, who are coming to the communities that have been burned and destroyed to help those who do have legal security, but now are without a home. So we in the desert know that water is a life-sustaining but a very scarce resource. So let us remember those who are walking through our desert now without access to water. We pour water from the jug, similar to those left by our ministry partner, No More Deaths, to help those coming across into our country to survive the perilous journey. Look at the decorations. It shows they are made by our children here, and it shows that these gifts of water are welcome to those crossing the desert. Now, for those of you who wish to share your joys and sorrows online, you can go to Menti and enter this code, 5309-6636. If you're here with us in Holland and you want some help with Menti, Brian Moon is more than glad to offer his technical services to help you do that. If you're here in person and you have a joy or sorrow you wish to share in just a minute, please come down and place a stone to symbolize your feelings. Then return to your seats after you've placed your stone. For the rest of us, if you wish not to participate in this, please be quiet, contemplation of your own feelings, and in support of those who come forward. Please.
add some extra stones for all you joining us from home and anybody whose joys, sorrows, angers, and celebrations might lie unrepresented. I'll read our Mentee responses, and then we have a special sound meditation this morning. One among us is voicing concern for all the victims of the fires in Southern California. So many prayers, yes, many of our prayers winging there. In a chaotic world, joy to hear the comforting and soothing guitar music at UUCT today. Thank you, Jose Luis, for holding all of that for us. I am happy to be here nearly every Sunday. It's a great way to end one week and get ready for a new one. Yes. What a beautiful, music-filled celebration of life we had here yesterday for Bo Only. You will be in our hearts forever, Bo. Yes, yes. And now we have a treat this morning, a sound meditation.
Hi, I'm Margie Hallmark. My husband Rick and I moved from Florida a few years ago to be closer to family, especially our two little grandchildren who are growing up way too fast. So I'm sure some of you can relate to that. We joined UUCT in 2022. When we lived in Florida, I used to do sound meditations with a combination of crystal and metal singing bowls and a variety of other instruments. I am going to do a short sound meditation here now, but I would like to say a few words first. For those of you who are not familiar with singing bowls, they usually produce a calming effect and frequently induce a meditative state. Sometimes, however, they will trigger an emotional response. I wanted you to be aware of this effect in case it happens to you. If it does, acknowledge in your own mind any emotions that come up. Let some or all of them flow through you to release them if you can. It isn't always easy or possible. If it does happen, then perhaps spend some time later thinking about your experience. I thought I would mention this possibility ahead of time since it does sometimes happen and it is helpful to be aware that it can.
after that. Would you join in singing Spirit of Life as you are able from your seats? Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our reading today comes from my colleague, Reverend Adam Dyer, called First Breath. That first breath must be delicious. It must be more tantalizing, more intoxicating than any drug, fragrant like no flower will ever be, enticing like no body scent. It must be all of this and more. Yet, without words or memories, how do we know? That first glorious rush of air wants us to keep breathing, wants our hearts to keep beating, wants our eyes to open and see, wants our souls to open and say, yes. That first breather wants us to live all our life saying, please, God, let me live, let me breathe, just for one more day, until we breathe our very last. That ends our reading. So I'll start with a question this morning. In the Christian Bible or the Jewish Torah, whichever you might know better, if one of them, what happens first? What happened? What? In the beginning. What happens first, though? Say it a little louder. I can't catch them. The light. Let there be light. There's light in the beginning. Sure. What else happens first? The word. Breath. Oh. Well, you might have read what the topic is going. Anything else that happens first? There's darkness, yes? That's where the light comes in, right? Okay. Someone created something. God created the earth, right? The Jewish and Christian scriptures actually start with a breath. Thank you, friend, from over here. Listen, from the Genesis 1:2 in the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and earth, the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered over the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. This wind is a Hebrew word, ruach. You want to say that with me? Ruach. Lovely. Ruach, which can mean translated as spirit, breath, or wind, as it is in the text we just read. A wind from God, a breath from God, is the first activity in this creation story. In the text that you just heard, the phrase formless void is the phrase in Hebrew tohu vabohu. And tohu, in addition to meaning formless, can also mean chaos or confusion. My Hebrew Bible professor had a theory, and he taught it a lot because he had just written a book on it. And the theory was that the Jewish creation story, which then becomes the Christian creation story, is not just a creation story in itself, but is actually a response to the Enuma Elish, which is a Babylonian creation story that early Jews would have known really well. Bereshit, the Hebrew word for the book of Genesis, is not the beginning. In this context, the Jewish deity is finally defeating the chaos monsters that are present in the Enuma Elish and moving Jews then towards a new type of order. So this story is actually saying between chaos and order, when chaos shrinks back into the waters and order takes a deep breath and breathes air over the chaos waters, what do we do with that new beginning? Reading Bereshit in this way helps me connect with the humanity in this story. The story is less about divine creation and more about that new beginning, that type of beginning that divides your life into then and now, here and there, before and after. Starting college, making a cross-country move, meeting that significant person, or the car accident, the sickness, the death, or the loss. That boundary which led to a separation. That realization of estrangement that was not your own choice. Getting sober, getting clean, getting help, getting another chance at life. That new beginning. Any of these moments and others offer us a chance. After the struggle with whatever is causing us suffering, we can make a choice to do something different and let out a deep breath before moving forward. This is the time of year when some of you have adopted resolutions for the year ahead. Maybe some of you are coming to church as your resolution. Maybe of you some have another specific intention for the coming calendar year. And you and I know that life doesn't care about the Gregorian calendar, but still, this new beginning of a new calendar year is a fine time to take a deep breath and begin again in a new way. Resolutions give us some choice over when we begin again. Rather than a personal resolution this year, though, I find myself yearning for us to make a collective resolution. We, as Unitarian Universalists, as Tucsonans, as Arizonans, Americans, we who believe that all people are whole and holy, worthy of life and dignity, I find myself yearning for us to make a collective resolution for beloved community, for community care, for collective liberation in the face of all this. Reverend Dr. Lynn Unger's poem, Breathe, speaks to this collective power of our breaths, our bodies, when we resolve to do a thing together. She writes, "Breathe," said the wind. "How can I breathe at a time like this when the air is full of smoke, of burning tires, burning lives?" "Just breathe," the wind insisted. "Easy for you to say if the weight of injustice is not wrapped around your throat, cutting off the air. I need you to breathe. I need you to breathe. Don't tell me to be calm when there are so many reasons to be angry, so much cause for despair." "I didn't say be calm," said the wind. "I said to breathe. We are going to need a lot of air to make this hurricane together." If we can make a collective resolution to fight for the dignity of all people, to resist the agents and tools of fascism, to uphold and fight for the dignity of neighbors, the breath of our intentions can create a hurricane of love, a hurricane of justice, a hurricane of peace, a hurricane that is not destructive, but encloses those whose lives are in danger. In the Torah, in that small passage we read earlier, the God in that story does just that. Some translations say later that God creates a dome over the waters, a dome that held space for creation to happen, apart from the wildness of the realm of the chaos. Torah scholar Kara Swomala says that the barrier in the Jewish and Christian creation story was created for life to dwell and thrive in. But it is not a hard barrier, it's not a wall, it's a porous one, permeable so that chaos still gets in sometimes. Chaos heard their name. Thank you, Chaos. As we turn to face the realities of climate chaos, of the fires and hurricanes and storms, of the heat and dwindling water supply, as well as the rising tide of fascism around the world and white Christian nationalism here, we must embolden ourselves to create domes of love and justice and safety for each other, for ourselves, for our neighbors who are more at risk than some of us. I've said this before, and I hate to say it again, but things are going to get worse before they get better. And we cannot be defeated by that fact. Now is the time to come together, use our collective breath like a hurricane of love and justice to counteract the forces of hatred and abuse in our world. This will require a different kind of breath than just that new beginning, though. Not only that breath, but a breath that can energize and propel us forward. My yoga teacher teaches us about fire breath. Fire breath, in her words, is a breath that what your neighbor can feel and hear as their own on the mat 5 feet away. The breath is not private, it's not in here, it is public, out there, loud. Fire breath can lead us to speak truth, to side with justice, to be love's voice and hands in the world. What would it feel like to breathe so loud your neighbor can hear you? To act so boldly no one can ignore you? You might feel alone at first, but I think in that public place you will find other people who are not afraid to breathe fire. What would it look like to breathe a fire of love onto the forces which are separating families? What would it feel like to breathe the fire of justice onto the forces which kill black and brown bodies in our streets every day? What would it look like to breathe a fire of compassion onto those who target, abuse, and harass trans and gender non-binary beloveds? Breathe a fire of humanity onto the forces which would make us, those of us who are white or male or upper class or cisgender or American, believe we are better than anyone else. Breathe fire into the shape of a heart wherever you see injustice. Breathe fire not to destroy, but to illuminate, create space for love to expand. But how, you'll ask me, like the person in that reading speaking to the winds? Just breathe, and know that through your breath you are joining a community of people who are also counteracting the forces of injustice in our world. Breathe, and through a fire breath become products of love in our world. Some of you will tell me after my sermon that love is not enough, and I will answer that it has to be, because it is something that is available to us always, one of the only things. We don't need to organize love into existence. We don't need to crowdfund to show our love. Love is already here. It is in you and in me, and when we share it, it multiplies. Love has to be enough. UU minister and former president of Star King School for the Ministry, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, writes, "Evil is that which exploits the lives of some to benefit the lives of others. Evil springs from ignorance, the denial of the beauty and goodness of life. It chooses ways of living that destroy rather than sustain the delicate web of relationships that make life possible. Evil's accomplice is anesthetization, not feeling. When the senses have been numbed and the feeling has been stifled, responsive reverence is dulled and love has no air to breathe. We cannot let evil smother our love. The only way to make love survive is to breathe air onto it. Then it can roar like a fire. Friends, in the days to come, in the months ahead, let us be that storm of love. Let us breathe fire into our own spirits and onto the spirits of others. Let us breathe fire into the core of injustice until it melts away. Let us give love room to breathe, so that all of us can breathe in a more free, more just, more love-filled world one day. May we make it so. Blessed be, and amen."
Just beautiful. Just beautiful. It's time for our offering this morning. Now, one Sunday each month, we designate as Share the Plate Sunday, and today is the day which we will give half of the non-pledge collection we take this morning to some community organization whose mission we support. Our Share the Plate recipient today is called the Mission Garden. They're located at 946 West Mission Lane right here in Tucson. They're located at the foot of Sentinel Peak, which is the site of the Native American village of Shuk-Shon, a place sacred to the Tohono O'odham. Mission Garden is a living agricultural museum of Sonoran desert-adopted heritage fruit trees, traditional local heirloom crops, and edible native plants. The garden is managed by the Friends of Tucson's Birthplace. It's actually a 501c3 nonprofit with no religious affiliation. The current plots that they have, we got that into another picture too, include native plants and early agriculture which the Hohokam and the O'odham peoples grew before there was any European contact. The garden also has examples of gardens which the O'odham grew following European contact, which show how their plants and their crops were influenced by the Spanish, by the Mexican, and even by the Chinese. They have other areas of development, a grassland section, a territorial section, a statehood section, what was common back when Arizona became a state. So this morning, half of your checks made out to UUCT, if they have Share the Plate written in the memo line, will go towards the Mission Garden. If you don't write Share the Plate, all stays here in the church. If you're joining us virtually, you can send a check to the church office with Share the Plate on the memo line, or you can give online, as always, at uuctucson.org/donate. Generosity, as we all know, is a spiritual practice, and Share the Plate is an expression of our mission. The ushers will now pass the baskets amongst you. Jose Luis.
My name is Dennis McRitchie, and I'm on your board of trustees. I'm the vice president of operations, and as such, I have the portfolio for facilities and safety. I'll tell you a little more about that in a moment, but I want to first invite everyone to social hour after the service in Goddard Hall, which is out the double doors behind you and to your left. A little louder still? All right. All right. How about this? All right. There will be coffee, iced tea, lemonade, snacks, and good company. Social hour food and refreshments are free for all, and donations are appreciated to cover our costs. If you are new and want to stay in touch with us, you can fill out a guest information card in the Welcome Center as you enter Goddard Hall on your left. You can also find a virtual guest information card in the newcomer section on our website. And now a few additional announcements to what you saw on the screen a few minutes ago. This Wednesday noon, there is a potluck lunch for snowbirds in Goddard. Please bring a dish to share with others. And it was briefly mentioned here on the slide, but the UU musician, singer, and songwriter, Jim Scott, will be here at UUCT Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. for an informal concert and sing-along. Jim Scott composed Gather the Spirit, Let There Be a House of Peace, and other songs from our hymnals, and he will be here to share his music and songs with us. And lastly, I discovered some announcements on my phone. We will be doing a flipped service next Sunday, January 19th. People of all ages will start together in Holland. After a short time, kids and those under the age of 18 will stay in the Holland Sanctuary for worship, and adults will go to other parts of the campus for learning activities on topics around racial justice and radical welcome. We will also have identity-based caucus groups for BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, those who identify as transgender and or gender non-binary, and people with disabilities. We hope you'll join us next week. Finally, as a member of your board and as the person in charge of facilities and safety, I wanted to mention that while we do have a number of projects that are quite large and have to be contracted out, we do have a lot of little things that any of you could perhaps help with if you have a few hours to spare. For example, we need some help putting up signs on the buildings that say cameras in use to help deter trespassing and crime. We do have a small paint job that is necessary to paint some windows with frosted paint. And if you're a little more handy-oriented, we do have some lights in the Holland bathrooms that we'd like to replace with a light fan combination. And finally, if you're landscaping, penultimately, if you are landscaping oriented, there is the rainwater harvesting project is having a work day in February, and there's no heavy lifting involved, but if you're interested in gardening and planting plants and shrubs, it's an opportunity to join us and help with that. And lastly, if you don't like any of those things, and you would prefer to just be indoor and doing office work, we could use some help to create a campus maintenance list so that things don't go unaddressed and we have a schedule for when things should be done. It would be very helpful to have someone help us there. You wouldn't be working alone, you'd be working with the rest of the facilities team. So I hope that you will find at least one of these things and interesting, and if not, I can offer you more. But at any rate, normally I would say come talk to me in Goddard, but I have to run after the service today. But is Margot here today? There's Margot Garcia, who's the head of the facilities team. and Rev Jamili, who is the head of the safety team. You can certainly talk to either of them, and they will be happy to give you more information about this, and I will be available at other times to regale you with more stories of work that you can do. Thank you very much.
The Year We Learned to Fly by Jacqueline Woodson, illustrated by Rafael Lopez. That was the year we learned to fly. That was the spring when the rain seemed like it would never stop, and the thunder boomed so hard we weren't allowed to go outside. Use those beautiful and brilliant minds of yours, my grandmother said. Lift your arms, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and believe in a thing. Somebody, somewhere, at some point, was just as bored as you are now. So my brother and I closed our eyes, and for a few minutes that first day, we weren't stuck in our apartment anymore. We were flying over the city we'd known our whole lives, but it was suddenly different, exploding with every kind of flower we've ever dreamed of growing. That was the summer we learned to fly, when my brother and I couldn't stop fussing with each other over whose turn it was to wash the windows, to feed the dog, to clean the kitchen. We fought and frowned and made silent promises to never speak to each other ever again. My grandmother said, lift your arms, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and stop being so mean about everything. Somebody somewhere at some point was just as mad as you are now. So we did, and the soft wind took us out over the city and past the windows of kids who hadn't yet learned to fly. My brother and I reached for each other's hand, flying and diving and laughing, and leaving all of our mad far behind us. That was the autumn our rooms felt too big and lonely, with only us in them and the darkness coming on so fast. But while we hugged ourselves against the too quiet of it all, we remembered that we didn't have to be stuck anywhere anymore. My grandmother had learned to fly from the people who came before. They were aunts and uncles and cousins who were brought here on huge ships, their wrists and ankles cuffed in iron. But my grandmother said, nobody can ever cuff your beautiful and brilliant mind. So our people learned to fly, she said. They dreamed a thing and made it happen, closed their eyes and flew away home. Lift your arms, my grandmother said. Close your eyes and remember, somebody somewhere at some point had to figure out they could fly. That was the winter we moved away from the building and the block and the friends we had always known, to a street where the kids looked at us funny and didn't even answer when we asked them if they wanted to play. It's okay, I said to my brother. Somebody somewhere at some point had to figure out they were ready for any new thing coming their way. So, like the people who came before us, we lifted our arms even higher, closed our eyes even tighter, breathed in even deeper, and flew the way we'd always known how to, free as the aunties and uncles and cousins who'd come before us, free as our own beautiful and brilliant minds. For a long time, the kids on the ground watched us. Then one by one, they lifted their arms. One by one, they too learned to fly. Jacqueline Woodson writes, The first time I read The People Who Could Fly, American Black Folk Tales by the brilliant Virginia Hamilton, I realized that through her beautiful story, I was learning to fly. Not with wings, but with words. Her book is the story of how enslaved people escaped their hard lives by lifting up and flying away home. And every page is anointed with the anointed with the illustrious paintings of Leo and Diane Dillon. As a kid, I always wondered how people were able to survive through the horrors of enslavement, but they did. And they passed down their stories and their fables and their memories to the young people coming along after them. And these stories gave us wings. Virginia Hamilton gave me and so many other writers storytelling wings. And with these wings, I have been able to fly past even the hardest of times into the world of my stories. Sometimes the first step towards change is closing your eyes, taking a breath, and imagining a different way.
I need your help for the last song. Would everybody clap once for me? If you can't sing the song or catch the melody, feel free to accompany with your claps. Words will be on the screen behind me, and rise as you are able. One morning I woke up and I knew what to do. Let's wait for the words to get back there. Ready? Let's get to the first verse. The words are, there we go. 1, a 2. 1, 2, ready. One morning I woke up and I knew what to do. I'd catch all the stones that everyone threw. I'd catch all the sorrow that I could in a day. Then I'd take all the stones and I'd throw them away. Don't ask why, say we must all be free. Don't ask when, say you can count on me. Don't ask why, say we must all be free. Don't ask when, say you can count on me. One morning I woke up and I knew what to do. I'd catch all the stones that everyone threw. I'd catch all the anger that I could in a day. Then I'd take all the stones and I'd throw them away. Don't ask why, say we must all be free. Don't ask when, say you can count on me. Don't ask why, say we must all be free. Don't ask when, say you can count on me. One morning I woke up and I knew what to do. I'd catch all the stones that everyone threw. I'd catch all the injustice that I could in a day. Then I'd take all the stones and I'd throw them away. Don't ask why, say we must all be free. Don't ask when, say you can count on me. Last time. Don't ask why, we must all be free. Don't ask when, say you can count on me.
That'll energize us. I like that. Oh. So, to extinguish our chalice this morning, please allow me to read some more words. These ones were written by the Reverend Dr. Christian L. Harper. They're entitled, The Breath of Life is Not Mine. Ooh, lucky kid. All right. Got 2 flames to put out. So, I do not wish to breathe another breath if it's not shared with others. Because the breath of life is not mine alone. I brought myself to be with you here, hoping that by inhaling the compassion, the courage, and the hope that I found here, I can exhale the fear, the selfishness, the separateness that I keep so close to my skin. I can't live another moment, at least not one full of joy, unless you and I find our oneness somewhere amongst each other, somewhere between the noise, somewhere within the silence of the next breath. Thank you.